of over 600,000 people globally every year. Jerry, throw up the breaking news sign! Satellite footage of multiple cities across the map, across the globe, being destroyed. The rapture is upon us, people. Global destruction is at hand. Welcome to the Modcast Podcast. Thank you for sitting through that very cringy beginning that I had so many technical difficulties trying to put together. But anyway. Was he right? Or was he just a salesperson with a spirituality complex? Was he a man just fed up with crime and wanted to make a change in his world? Or did he actually have the insight, the knowledge into the next realm? My name is Damien and welcome to the Modcast Podcast, the home of psychology for success. Now, as you've seen in my previous videos, I've been touching base on multiple different avenues of psychological. I call them tricks or skills. I refer to them as many things. But my question I have for you today is, what if? What if? In a world where violence, crime, absurd acts of hatred, adultery, betrayal. What if in a world where all of things were accepted as just part of reality, a man wanted to make a difference? A man stood up and realized he had quite the insight in psychological pathology and wanted to reach into the very soul of his neighboring culture, regardless of where they were, who they came from, where they are, what they do with themselves, what their beliefs are, and make a difference. What if we knew that man as Jesus? What if we knew that man as your favorite teacher? What if we knew that man or woman or person as a prophet, or a priest, or a counselor, or a doctor? When people wish to invoke change, they look for the best way to do that, to reach not just the initial person they're trying to change and change the world for, but also on how to reach, discuss, understand, and communicate the message that being good is the focus, that leaving behind anything that restrains you from being a better person is the main driving factor to what your message is that you're trying to share. What if Jesus was a salesperson? And what if I have a pathology or a psychological perspective or a theory that you could very well rid yourself of any issue with your mental health, with the right belief system, and a little bit of support along every step of the way. Whether it's to beat obesity, addiction, any kind of mental health variation, such as anxiety or depression, issues with socialization, loneliness, fatigue, mental and physical. What if the answer to that was something I could bottle and just give to you in the form of a new-aged antidepressant or an old-age scripture? Now, before I get into the meat of things, I want to be very clear. I have no issues with religion. I come from a Christian household raised. My name is Damien, which thanks to the Omen became quite widely popular for being a biblical term for son of the devil, right hand of the devil, reincarnation of the devil, but very much associated with the devil. So I've had my fair share of interactions with such communities, and I've still found a way to move past that and communicate with them. Go to church groups and youth groups, scouts groups, school groups, community groups. I've been a salesperson in my life for what I would now call literally at least 30% of my life on a professional level. But, and that's my entire existence. But what if I told you that we've all been salespeople from the moment we learned how to express ideas, questions, and the moment we learned that we wanted something and we had to convince someone on how we wanted to get it. Whether it be going to school or university or studying that certain degree that a family member may not believe in or understand. Or just asking your teacher for some more time at school to finish your studies. Or telling your work you need longer to meet them on the level that they need for your KPIs. Or convince them you want that promotion. What if I told you that it took sales skills to be able to convince your partner that you could change? To make sure that they don't leave. What if I told you that from a psychological standpoint, the skills and education that I've had from sales training and many other now psychological avenues, including the works of Freud and Adler and Jung. What if I've combined all of this knowledge to come to you with a new philosophy, a new pathology, something that might change your perspective on the world? You might think I'm crazy. You might even say that I don't know what I'm talking about, or that I'm a narcissist that just wants to be famous, or that I'm someone that could never change because you've seen the true side to me in the past prior to my own spiritual or self-existence, existential awakening. And you think I don't have anything of value to share with you today. But what if you've never known the real version of me, and that I've just been a lost soul wandering the plane of this existence for as long as I can remember, and I've never been truly happy until the last 12 months when I got sober, really dug deep and learned everything about myself, and finished writing the meticulous notes of what I like to call psychoanalytical road mapping that I've worked so diligently on since I was about 18 years of age. Sales training has changed my life for the better. There were moments when being in the sales industry compiled and just ridiculously, almost irreversibly made me a worse person. Because you are who you surround yourself with. And unfortunately, any system built purely on capital gains and gross profit and margins to only reach for success, regardless of the people you surround yourself with or regardless of the people that you sell your product to or the audience you're trying to speak to, if you surround yourself with the people that only care for the dollar value and the success that comes to themselves and their business, it may fundamentally change you for the worse. And that can be permanent or temporary, depending on the people you then go on to meet and listen to for the rest of your life. Now, as I embark in this conversation, I ask you, give me 20 minutes of your time. If you can't do that, the video is not for you. The little egg of knowledge may not be for you. But the understanding I have that I'm trying to share is marketed, collated, refined, calculated, and presented in a way that is only to reach someone that will truly understand and need it. So if you think any of the negative connotations that have come up in the past regarding what I'm trying to do for myself and those around me and potentially people of the world, this content, this education, this higher level of understanding that I'm trying to attain and transfer is not for you, and that's completely fine. Because I want the world to be a happier, better place for the next generation of mine and yours and everyone's children to be a part of. Because right now, all I see every single day is negative media, difficult situations, hard to understand values, and just a shred of human decency on most avenues of media culture. We are in an epidemic of disrespect. We are in an epidemic of a time where violence, aggression, misunderstanding, miscommunication, ignorance, lack of any attempt to be human is becoming rampant. Do you understand what's happening in your local community? Not just in Australia, but across the world? We see this stuff on TV all the time. The media has a higher audience rate from spreading negative awareness. That's statistically proven. Because as a sales metric, people are more likely to tell you 10 times more negative things that have happened to them much faster. They will tell 10 people about the experience they had at your business if it was a bad one, and maybe only 2 or 3 of their most close confidants if it was a good one. The positive awareness of our culture is at an all-time low because we have so much to focus on that scares us and worries us. And you want to know what that's called? Fear-mongering. It's a sales tactic. Fear of missing out, fear of not being good enough, fear of not being stable enough, fear of not making enough money, fear of not being there when people are successful without you, fear of being left behind, fear of being forgotten, fear of not having enough at the end of every day, fear of not being good enough in any aspect of your life. Where do you think anxiety comes from? Where do you think depression comes from? Where do you think all these terms have come from over the years? Well, let me be really frank with you. It's from comparison and lack of awareness. It is from a time where the world has been structured to fit its entire narrative under one keyhole, and that's to make you work, get paid probably less than your value is, and then retire quietly in some corner somewhere where you are thought and meant to rely on a system that can just give you the bare minimum and forget about you otherwise. Now, don't get me wrong. We live in an extremely lucky country. Still in a lot of ways. But our world is getting scary. For so many reasons. We don't even know who actually runs the world anymore. And I don't think we ever have. There are so many people out there with so many invisible puppet masters. It is actually insane to know who is genuine and who's not, especially with this AI crap that's everywhere at the moment. What's real and what isn't? Actors have been putting on incredible shows for a long time, helping spread narratives of all different descriptions. Psychology for Success will help you shift your perspective and become aware of your surroundings. Become aware of the way people talk to you and what they're actually trying to get out of you. Whether you're 15 years old and don't know whether or not you should trust what that teacher is saying, because you want to ask them more about the subject they're teaching because it really doesn't interest you, but they said maybe one thing that piqued your interest, and you do want to know why you're being taught that subject, because otherwise you couldn't care less, because it's got nothing to do with what you think you want to do when you're older. But the right now is such a question, so the what if becomes so powerful. What if your neighbor is the most dangerous person you've ever met in your life, and you decide to go outside and rip skids and be a little douche canoe? What if you irreversibly change something about yourself medically that you can't get back? That science hasn't come far enough for you to toggle a switch and be whatever you want to be overnight. The mental health rate, the suicide rate, the rate of people's physical and mental health, some of these statistics should scare you. And if you don't know what they are, it's because your focus has been trained and honed on areas that they will actively control for your entire life. Do you know what your tax bracket is? And why it's that bracket? And what that tax is even for? Do you know why you need to have a certain amount of protein or fiber in a day? Do you understand what you're saying to someone when the words leave your mouth? The everlasting message you might leave in someone's brain from just the tiniest little comment you made, without even thinking about the effects it might have on that person, or the people around you, or your workplace. The Modcast Podcast, the psychology for success, even my podcast last year that I attempted to start, which, yes, was a complete and absolute bungle. I know that. But the message, regardless of how easy it was to interpret, was meant to be and remains the same. But it was meant to be that the world needs to get better. And it starts with everyone. It starts with every community, every culture, every person on the planet showing a little more empathy and respect and care for the world that they are a part of. Google humanitarianism. Google capitalism. Do you know what society you're even a part of? Do you understand the implications of your behavior and how it makes you look to other people? The what if has become such a powerful sentiment and has been a powerful sentiment for the entirety of human psychological existence since we were able to ask the question, what if you murdering that person changes your entire life? That should give you enough reason to maybe not do it. Unless you have a more powerful reason to do it. But the nonsensical, incredible amount of violence that our families, our communities, our worlds have to experience right now is on a level that no normal person should have to comprehend. How can you live with the way you live your life if all you're ever doing is hurting someone else? And you might not even think that far ahead, but what if you just broke into someone's car and that's the first time they've ever had something that nice? But they can't afford the insurance, or they just got the vehicle and you've essentially financially fucked them before they've even had a chance to enjoy it. Or what if it's the last thing that they had to share with their family after just losing their job and they're about to jump off a bridge because of you? Do you even think more than 2 seconds in front of your own needs? Have you ever had your perspective shifted towards a sick family member, dog, person in your life that you genuinely care about that you might never get back again if you make the wrong decision today. Whether that mean that you weren't there in the final moments of their life because you just couldn't care enough to listen to what they had to say to you and you stormed out that door without letting them get their true feelings out or their message. What if last year, that was the last thing I ever said, and the next video I uploaded was one of those horrendous videos I've seen online of men streaming, and boom. What if I'm selling you a concept? I'm selling you a reason to show more compassion and empathy. If that doesn't speak to you on any level, I'm really glad, because you're either someone that is already a part of a beautiful community and you don't see any need to change, or unfortunately you're someone that would rather watch the entire world around them burn before sacrificing their own gains. And that just means you are an exact byproduct of the society you've been raised in. By the people that are too scared to raise you the way they think is the right way, because you now live in a world where consequences few and far between, and when actual consequences dealt in a level of which you've already acted on an action, the person that deals that consequence gets a much harsher sentence than you did. So then people just stop doing it. And eventually the cycle repeats itself so much and so often that we can't change it anymore. That now the only option is to go so hard on people that make mistakes that those people essentially become a martyr to change the world, when that might be their first mistake. But it's getting to the point where if the world doesn't change to actually find a way to scare people into acting right again, then there's going to be no value in being a good person anymore, because everyone that's a bad person is going to have so much more than you in life that there's not going to be the possibility of change. Not for the masses. There's still going to be good people, but there's so many good people out there surrounded by bad people that then turn them bad. Aren't you worried about your kids or your friends or your cousin or your dad or whoever's in your life that may be just trying to survive and do something to change their life, but then they have no choice but to make the worst actions to do it? My what if for you is, what if you don't pay attention to anything I say, but then a year from now, you're at gunpoint or knife point, or you're getting a call from a police officer that's telling you that someone in your life has passed because of the exact actions and violence that we are experiencing every day that you could have helped change just by having your perspective shifted. I've spent 4 years, during which one of those years I had to deal with the passing of an extremely dear friend that helped me with my autism, that helped me come to terms with who I am, that I miss dearly every day. And last year, I quit the mental health line. I quit and I stopped following the promise I made to a very dear friend, because after I lost him, I dedicated myself to it. Every year, leading up to Men's Mental Health Month in April. And after the first year, I lost a woman that I can only liken to being my second mum. And it was impossible for me to talk about it. Impossible. For years. And she was the only one that knew the God's honest truth. The whatever's cultural appropriated sentence it is to mean that you're speaking with nothing but integrous value. Whatever that sentence is in your world, in your culture, in your timeline, in your generation, whatever it means to speak with nothing but sheer integrity, honesty, to adhere to what is hopefully the right way of speaking, to get the message across that I needed help. Like the 4 years worth of over 700 people I talked to, 703 I think it was, people I talked to overall, that I hopefully helped survive the overwhelming, overbearing, horrible complexity that is mental health. And you want us to not talk about that for the 1 month of the year that they might feel safe enough to do so. What if it was your dad? What if it was the father of your children? What if it was your son? 12 years from now, because he's currently 3 years old, but he doesn't know he's being raised in a world where it's either violence or silence, and that's your choice. Because that's how it feels. That's how it feels to so many of them. Do you fully comprehend the meaning behind 700,000 people globally every year? So what if there was a man all those eons ago who couldn't genuinely, who couldn't give a fuck about your gender or your agenda. He just hopes you do better to survive the current climate, to live a long and happy life, and all he's trying to do is help you invoke change and shift perspective and be there for people in his life the only way he knows how. What if everything we've ever been taught was something just to scare us into acting a very specific way for our entire lives, because it was the easiest way for us to be controlled? Because if we aren't controlled, suddenly there's a world of people who will want to hurt you and steal your stuff and take your family and do whatever it is necessary to themselves to feel like they are surviving or successful. And if you don't give someone a good enough reason to do success in the right way, they'll find the fastest, easiest, and worst way to do it. Address your community. Show integrity. Call out your friends on bad things. Be willing to step away from people that don't align with your values. Teach people that it's okay to say no without it having to escalate. Teach people it's okay to disagree without it having to escalate. We are not our great-grandparents. We are not our grandparents. We are not the neighbors we used to live near. We are not our ancestors, but we can be the best versions of them. The world as we knew it is ending, and there is a new one being built every single day. With the choices our government make, with the choices our school systems make, our mental health systems, our disability systems, our allied health systems, all of them have such intrinsic value that gets squandered and misinterpreted, miscommunicated, There is so much good in this world that we don't help foster. There is so much good in this world that we don't help guide to prosperity. Do you see how beautiful these children are up until they hit 10? And then how quickly that changes if they're around the wrong people. How quickly you can change. Just because you've been living without all the things you've wanted
for your entire life, and suddenly you see the wrong values spruiking the one thing you've always wanted, and then your whole perspective on what it means to be someone changes, and you chase it, and you commit to it, and you just have to hope you're committing to the right thing. Because if you're not, you might be hurting a lot of people along the way. Heed my words, Australia, or anywhere else that you might be listening from. Whether it be just another couple hundred people like most of my videos have been getting to, or whether this message reaches more people than I ever expect. Heed the words of someone who has never truly known himself because he's always been too scared to speak the honest truth. That he's always been too scared to speak the exact reason why he left, or why he can't be there anymore, or why he needs to quit that job, or break up with that person, or leave that area, or stop being friends with that person, because he's too scared to hurt someone's feelings for the consequence that will happen to him and the lack of consequence that will happen to someone who does the wrong thing. The amount of times my moral compass has been askew because I've had to listen to some horrible person that's only worrying about lining their pocket. Does that sound like a familiar story to you? Because if it sounds like just a scapegoat for my responsibilities, no, absolutely. Talk to me. I will own up to anything I've ever done, discuss who I am now, apologize for anything I might have said or done to you at the time, but you need to understand when someone is in the throes and woes of their fight or flight response, which has been triggered for years, and they've been doing therapy that has kept them in a cycle of paying for that therapy and talking about the past that continues to trigger them. It is so hard to break that cycle because we are literally living in a society that just glorifies talking about your issues in a light that allows you to continue to do so, which for some people may promote healing and growth, and that's absolutely fine. But if you haven't heard of the Adlerian philosophy of working out what has happened, working out whether or not you are the person you say you are and how you can better yourself and move forward with your life. If you haven't looked into that philosophy, you should. It changed my life. That's why I'm trying to change yours. I heard some of the most abhorrently life-changing things I've ever heard just working on a mental health crisis line, trying to make a difference to people I didn't know. And I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I had to get high pretty much 24/7 to not think about those things. Because when you genuinely care about the people in your world, even if you don't know them, when you listen to someone's heart and soul bleeding out to you over the phone, it takes a level of resilience that I don't know if there's even many people that are born with it, and that's why the hotlines are so congested. It takes a special kind of person to be able to do that long term. But it takes an average person to be able to raise their hand and have a 7 or 8 minute conversation to change someone's life. Look up Simon Sinek's video about it. 7 minutes might actually be the difference between whether or not someone jumps off a bridge. I think it's 7 minutes. So if I went over the 20-minute timer because I got stuck in one of these passionate tangents, I hope you stuck around and listened to the main message, is that if you can change and you can see that there's things about your life you want to make better, you can, and there will be a way to do that on this channel. And I hope that your life gets better, and that I was never intending originally or now, never have intended even for a second to come after you, your life, the way you live it, or your spirituality. Because no one knows the real answers. That's why the what if can be so powerful and so scary. What if you don't buy that chair today and you come back tomorrow and it's gone? You're more likely to buy it. What if you don't try these drugs and everyone in your friend group now thinks you're a wanker and they don't want to talk to you ever again? So you do it. What if you disagree with that statement made by your teacher and they give you detention? So you learn not to say anything. You learn not to question anything. Because if you question it too much, they're going to look at you the wrong way and then you'll feel ostracized and alone. And being alone is the most horrendous feeling in the world. Unless that's where you want to be. Being forced to be there against your will, being forced to be anywhere against your will, and trapped there, such as your own body, or a religion you don't believe in, or a community you can't get out of, or a workplace you're stuck in, or a debt, or a scheme, or anything in between. Do you understand the words I'm trying to use to speak to your soul? Because if we can't find an understanding for each other, there's not much left. The difference between humans and the animal kingdom isn't actually that big. Because there's so many more animals out there that show so much more depth of compassion than the average person does these days. And that is so frightening, man. What if Jesus was a salesperson and all he was trying to sell was a world that didn't want to kill itself?